This meeting of Cabinet, which has been held virtually. The meeting is being recorded and will be available via the Council's website to be viewed as soon as is practicable following the meeting. People participating in the meeting will be accessing this meeting from remote locations. Please could everybody ensure that mobile phones are switched off. Members will have received an electronic copy of the agenda. I will of course ask officers to present a summary of the key points. For the record, the agenda can be viewed on the Council's website. Members and officers will be speaking at various points during the meeting, and those speaking may switch their cameras on at that point, but I would ask that, with the exception of myself as chairperson, at all of the times you keep your cameras and microphones switched off, as this will help to minimise any background noise and interference and to ensure the connection remains as stable as possible. If any members or officers wish to raise a point or question, you should press the hands up icon on the screen hand at the top right-hand side of the Microsoft Teams window. I'll come to you in the order I receive requests. Please lower your hand once you've finished speaking. The chat button has been disabled for this meeting, as it is for every meeting. Please do not use your microphone until I invite you to do so. Officers from Democratic Services will be supporting the meeting and will be monitoring the use of microphones throughout the meeting. When necessary, we'll mute those not being used. I will ask the officers to introduce themselves as and when I invite them to speak during the course of the meeting. Officers too should ensure microphones and cameras are switched off when not in use. I will now proceed to the agenda business. So, as was indicated earlier, we've had apologies from the Deputy Leader, Councillor Gerbie. I haven't had any other apologies from members. I have had apologies from the Corporate Director for Social Services and Well-being. So I will move on to declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of a personal or prejudicial interest from members or officers in accordance with the provision of the Members' Code of Conduct adopted by the Council in September 2008, please? Councillor Blundell, please.
Thank you, Leader. Let me just hand out. Yes, I'd like to declare a prejudicial interest in agenda item 5, the capital programme update, as I am an LEA Governor of Bryn Terrain Comprehensive, which is mentioned in the report. Thank you, Leader.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Blundell. Councillor Williams, please.
Yes, thank you, Leader. I will need to declare an interest in agenda item 9, appointment of local authority governors, as I'm been appointed to my local school, Abercurden Primary.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Williams, and I believe that Councillor Farr has a similar declaration to make on that.
That's right, for comprehensive school.
That's right. Okay, thank you, Councillor Farr. And if, of course, there are any other declarations that become apparent during the course of the meeting, then please don't hesitate to make them at that stage. We now have for approval the minutes of the last meeting of Cabinet, which was on the 8th of March. So I will need a mover who was present at the time for that meeting for those minutes, please.
I'll move that the accurate record of the meeting, Leader.
And I'm happy to second them. Thank you, Councillor Williams. Is everyone in agreement with that, please? Thank you. First report we have on today's agenda is the revenue budget outturn report for 2021 to 2022. And this is a report of the Chief Officer of Finance, Performance and Change. So over, please, to our Chief Officer, Carys.
Thank you very much, Leader. For the sake of the recording, I'll introduce myself. So I'm Carys Lord. I'm the Chief Officer for Finance, Performance and Change. So this report provides Cabinet with an update on the Council's revenue financial performance for the financial year ended the 31st of March 2022, and it seeks approval for budget variance between £100,000 and £500,000 as required by the Council's financial procedure rules. So the approved net revenue budget for the financial year 2021-22 was £298 million. Last year was a complex financial year, primarily as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, which resulted in significant changes occurring throughout the year as circumstances changed and services were supported in different ways to deliver outcomes in the best way possible. Welsh Government continued to financially support local authorities in dealing with the pandemic through the year via the Hardship Fund. And during the year, the funding available to local authorities was increased to support free school meals during the school holidays, to support a winter fuel payment. Money was provided for community hubs, and additional funding was also made available for homelessness support. Some of the funding also did taper down during the year, and this was particularly in relation to social care uplifts and void payments. And the Council continued to submit claims to cover increased costs and loss of income throughout the year. In addition to this financial support, significant grants were received in the last quarter of the financial year, and this has resulted in a significant change in the financial position between Q3 and Q4 in the year. The level of financial support received at the year end was welcome, but could not have been foreseen. Therefore, the funding will be spent in the current financial year in accordance with the conditions applied to those grants, and it will also be closely monitored to ensure its effective use. In addition, the Council received funding in recognition of the reduced council tax collection rates experienced by councils during last financial year, and also a one-off increase in the revenue support grant in the context of the inflationary and service pressures that councils continued to face, together with responding to the climate and nature emergency. Again, an in-year adjustment to the revenue support grant is unprecedented and was not foreseen. This latter change did increase the council's net budget to £301.6 million for last year. So the Council's net revenue budget and final outturn for the last financial year is shown in Table 1 in this afternoon's report. The table highlights a net underspend of £8.8 million against directorate budgets and an underspend of £7.4 million against council-wide budgets. As a result of this, the Council has been able to put money into reserves to invest in services and facilities for residents and to mitigate future risks and expenditure commitments. Table 2 provides members with more detail with regards to the main reasons for the change since the Q3 monitoring report was received, and this is broken down for you by service. As already said, the additional funding made available at the end of the financial year is welcomed. However, it should be noted that the outturn figure for the year does mask some underlying budget pressures in some service areas, and these were reported during the year and they still persist. There have also been a number of budget variants and technical adjustments between budgets since the Q3 revenue forecast was presented to Cabinet in January, and the outturn position in front of you today is reported on the assumption that these variants will be approved. As outlined earlier, the Council continued to claim from Welsh Government through the Hardship Fund, and received a total of £16.5 million from that fund in the last financial year. Details of this are included from paragraph 4.120, which details expenditure claims of £14.7 million and a loss of income claim of £1.76 million during the year. These claims were all assessed by Welsh Government, and only £66,000 of the claims was disallowed in the year. When the budget was set for last year, there was still some £2.37 million of outstanding prior year budget reduction proposals that had not been met in full. And Table 5 in your report highlights that all of this has now been found, with the exception of £100,000, and the reason for this is outlined in paragraph 422 of your report. The budget for last year also included budget reduction proposals of £1.76 million, and the year-end position is a shortfall on that savings target of £65,000, or 3.7% of the overall budget savings. A summary of the financial position for each main service area is included at Appendix 3 of your report, and significant detail is also provided within the main body of the report in relation to each service area. The Council is required to maintain adequate financial reserves to meet the needs of the organisation. And during the last financial year, directorates drew down funding from specific earmarked reserves, and these were reported to Cabinet through the quarterly monitoring reports. The final drawdown from reserves was £8.99 million, and this is summarised in Table 7 of the report, with more details being provided at Appendix 4. As part of the closure of the accounts for the last financial year, a review of reserves was undertaken to ensure that those in existence were still valid, and directorates identified emerging issues which would require funding in the future, and also emerging risks for the Council as a whole were considered. Table 8 in this afternoon's report details the creation of the new earmarked reserves, increases to existing earmarked reserves, and also amounts that have been unwound from reserves. A full breakdown of the total movement in earmarked reserves at the end of the year is provided in Appendix 4, and Table 9 provides members with a summary of the final position on all usable reserves for the year. Therefore, Leader, I would bring Cabinet's attention to the recommendations in Section 9 of the report, namely, the Cabinet is recommended to note the revenue outturn position for 2021-22, and also to recommend that Council approve the virements between £100,000 and £500,000 as outlined in paragraph 4.115 of your report this afternoon. Thank you.
Thanks so much for that comprehensive report, Carys. Councillor Williams, please.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. First of all, I'd like to move the officer's recommendation at 9. I'm not going to spend an awful lot of time on this because we have got quite a long agenda, and there will be opportunities again to have a look at this tomorrow at full council. But I think I should record my appreciation to the Welsh Government really for displaying their support for local government. You know, this has come about by successful lobbying by the WLGA, by yourself. I know you've put a lot of work into lobbying Welsh Government ministers and indeed the officers in their area meetings across Wales, you know, to make the case for local government. And I'm pleased to say that the Welsh Government have listened and they've responded. So I'll just leave that there for now, and I'm sure we'll come back to it tomorrow. So thank you, Leader. Move the report.
Thanks so much for that, Councillor Williams, and I certainly echo those words. Welsh Government have been very supportive. A lot of funding has been last minute, but Welsh Government have found themselves in a similar position as some of the decisions made by UK Government. Arguably for understandable reasons, the UK Government have been made towards the end of the financial year, and I'm sure Carys can confirm that authorities across Wales, if not all authorities, have found themselves in the same boat as Bridgend in having these unexpected grants awarded very late in the financial year. And there was one question I had, like Councillor Williams said, I'm sure there'll be more questions about this tomorrow. But the one outstanding saving on the Street Works review and the case that we've made to Welsh Government around that in terms of charging fees to Street Works operators for undertaking those works. I think we would be very happy to write and contact Welsh Government again if we don't hear from Welsh Government. I'm sure that's something the Corporate Director for Communities can take up, and I can take up together with the Cabinet Member for Communities to try and achieve that budget reduction proposal, because there is a strong business case around that. Did you just want to confirm that other local authorities are in a similar position to us, Carys, please?
Yes, sorry, we all received money late in the year, and I think all authorities will be reporting very much along the same lines as we are with regards to reserves, etc.
Okay, thank you for that, Carys. That's useful to know. Thank you, Carys. Councillor Spanzik, please.
Thank you, Leader. And I'd like to formally second the report as well and echo the comments of both yourself and Councillor Williams I just made. And it's on that very similar point you mentioned, Leader, about the Street Works, the £100,000 savings, COM19. It's 4.2.2 in the report. And it's been as an identified saving for several years. And I think if it doesn't take place, and the report says if it doesn't take place and there's a positive response from Welsh Government, the first quarter of this year, that Communities Directorate will identify alternative budget reduction proposals, even though it's already impacted on highways maintenance things. And maybe this is not one of those things. If for some reason, it's a great scheme if we can get the back in the Welsh Government to make it work across Wales, but if for some reason it doesn't proceed, that £100,000 saving maybe should become a corporate pressure and not a pressure on the community's budget, because it's not through no fault of trying for several years now to get this permitting scheme for roadworks in place. So just to bear that in mind in the future, maybe it wouldn't be fair for that impact on further highways maintenance, just because we're unable to proceed with the scheme being approved. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Spanzik. So I can't see that anyone else wants to come in. The recommendations have been moved and seconded. Is everyone in agreement with those recommendations, please?
Right.
Great.
Thank you, Councillor Spanzik. Thank you, everyone. We will now receive the second report from the Corporate Director, the Chief Officer of Finance, Performance and Change, on the capital programme and an update on the progress of the capital programme. Carys, please.
Okay, thank you, Leader. So the purpose of this report is to seek agreement from Cabinet to present a report to Council for approval of a revised capital programme for the period to 2031-32. So on the 23rd of February this year, Council approved a capital programme covering the period up to 2031-32. And the approved programme totalled £230 million, of which £123 million is to be met from Bridgend County Borough Council resources via the use of capital receipts and revenue contributions from earmarked reserves, with the remaining £106.6 million coming from external resources, including the General Capital Grant from Welsh Government. A review has now been undertaken of the available capital resources, taking into consideration uncommitted funding in the capital programme, the position on earmarked reserves and budget available for the current financial year. As a result of this, a number of new capital schemes have been considered and prioritised by the Corporate Management Board in line with the Council's capital strategy. The funding for these schemes has been set aside through new earmarked reserves established during the 21-22 year-end process, as we recently looked at in the last report, but also from unallocated general capital funding received at the end of the last financial year, through the local government settlement for this year and from revenue contributions. The proposed new schemes are shown in Table 1 of today's report and will cost £9.9 million to deliver. And the funding of these proposed new capital schemes is outlined for you in Table 2. So the table details proposed investments in infrastructure and assets across the county, including works to schools, transport-related schemes, and investment to support individuals to remain at home within their community. Further details of each of these schemes are set out in your report from paragraph 4.4 onwards. If I may, Leader, I'd refer members to the recommendation at section 9 of the report, which recommends that Cabinet agrees the revised capital programme to be submitted to Council for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Carys. Councillor Williams, please.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Again, this report will be going to Council tomorrow. I move the officer's recommendation, but I think it's fair to say that as a result of our fortuitous position with the last report, this has enabled us now to invest almost £10 million in the county borough, and you know, there's a number of schemes there in education and communities that will certainly benefit from this extra investment. So whether other cabinet members wish to highlight individual schemes, then that'd be welcome. Thank you, Leader.
Thanks very much, Councillor Williams. Councillor Spanswick, please.
Thank you, Leader. And yes, I'd like to second the report and welcome this massive investment in education, community facilities, and also the item on there on social services, Telecare transformation project. In particular, it might seem a small element, but the children's playground refurbishment, an extra £500,000, taking it over £1 million we invest in our play areas for the county borough. I can assure you I'll be taking a very close interest myself to make sure we have some of the best play facilities across the county borough, and they take a bit of time to get in place. But this is just one part of a smaller, large investment in highways as well. All really welcome, and as I say, probably more questions tomorrow, but some real welcome investment in the county borough.
Thank you for that, Councillor Spanswick, and Councillor Williams is right to identify that investment across the borough. I'm particularly pleased to see the plans and proposals for 3 schools that are very popular schools: Pencoed Primary, Coity Primary, and Bryntyrion Comprehensive School. The investment planned will enable major expansion of those schools, that will provide more classrooms, that will enable more pupils to attend those schools. And I know that local members have made the case for expansion of those schools to enable local families and local children to attend the schools. And we've also able to secure and to utilise Section 106 funding, totaling almost 1.3 million, to support the funding that we are committing towards those schemes. And also there's a critical investment in our Telecare transformation project. Colleagues may be aware of the prospect of a major change to the telephone network, where that will be switched off, the analog telephone network, and our current Telecare system that supports over 2,000 vulnerable citizens across the borough is currently dependent on that network, and we will need to switch to digital to enable us to continue to provide that service, and it does maintain people's independence at home. So it's essential we make that investment to continue that support through Helicare. And I know that members for Pencoed will be very pleased to see the earmarked funding for the Pencrisp Road Bridge. It's one of our biggest ever infrastructure projects and does require significant early design work. And that funding enables that detailed design work to be undertaken. And then, of course, there's the investment that Councillor Spanswick referred to in highways in the carriageway and footway refurbishment programme, and more details will be available on that soon. So the recommendation has been moved and seconded that the programme, the revised programme, is submitted to Council for approval tomorrow. Is everyone in agreement with the recommendations, please?
Right.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Caris. We'll now receive the first report of the meeting from our Corporate Director for Communities, and it is an update on recycling and waste services post 2024. Janine, please.
Oh, thank you very much, Leader. And for the purposes of the recording, I'm Janine Nightingale, the Corporate Director for Communities. So the report that we have in front of you, Cabinet, is a report on the recycling and waste services post 2024. And the purpose of the report today is there's 4 reasons for the report. The first reason is to proceed to tender for an interim contract for recycling and waste collection and our CRC management contract for up to a 2-year duration. The second reason is to delegate authority to myself to negotiate final acquisition fees for existing fleet, plant and equipment. Thirdly, to delegate authority to myself to negotiate terms with Kia to look to change our fuel supply for the existing fleet from diesel to a hydrogenated vegetable oil derived fuel in the period up to the end of the existing contract. And the fourth reason for the report today, Leader, is to look to commence work with some immediacy on future service provision post 2026, including decarbonisation of the waste fleet, looking at additional material streams, because we want to be the best performing waste and recycling local authority in Wales. So the background to the report really is that we have outsourced our waste and recycling contract since 2003 in Bridgend, and our current waste service contract is with Kia Services Limited and will end in April, or rather the 31st of March 2024. Now, Kia will no longer be in the waste and environmental market post that date, so we cannot continue any contractual arrangements, even if we wanted to, with that provider. Now, it's been a successful contract and is a successful contract in terms of its cost and in terms of the rate of recycling. And Bridgend is consistently one of the top performing local authorities in Wales. And that's a lot of thanks go to our residents, Leader, because we are recycling typically over 70% of all waste that comes out in the bags. Now, the target for Wales is 64%, so we're well ahead of the target and one of the top performing recyclers. We have a very low missed collection rate, which is a national indices. We miss very few collections, and we have a very good rate of customer satisfaction. From the citizens panel in 2021, 76% of respondents said the contract was very good or fairly good. However, we have an ambition in Bridgend to be the best performing service in Wales, not just in the top percentiles. We want to be the best performing waste and recycling service. We want to increase the number of waste streams that we are recycling. We want to look to have community reuse shops where we can look at finding new homes for very good quality products that people no longer need. And we really want to move our fleet to decarbonised ultra-low emission vehicles. That's key for us. And we are currently looking at electric and hydrogen applications for that. And we've got a report on hydrogen, which we'll be talking about a little later. So it is clear, however, though, that there's a great deal of uncertainty that exists within waste services currently. And that's not least because Welsh Government targets of recycling post 2024 are not known yet. So we don't know how much we'll have to increase our rate of recycling. Also, there's going to be some legislative changes that are going to be introduced in Wales for things like deposit return schemes, for things like extended producer responsibility, the removal of things like single-use plastics, etc. And all of these will impact on what we collect from the curbside. So in essence, this combined with the move to a decarbonised waste fleet, it's very difficult to make some of those decisions on what a contract will look like in 2024. So it's for all these reasons that we're strongly recommending to Cabinet today that we put a short-term interim contract in place for no more than 2 years, from 24 to 26. We can use the existing fleet that we have in place that is bespoke to us in Bridgend and the existing collection methodology. So we don't have to change anything, Leader, during that 2 years. Now, this would allow us the time that we need to develop a new future waste model post-26. And it would allow us to look at all of those things that are currently uncertainties for us. We'd have to make some really key decisions, such as the collection methodology, and that would very much depend on the Welsh Government recycling rates they come forward with. And it would also give us the time to look at what type of fleet we would want to bring forward, because from 2026 we will need a new waste fleet. So we want to get the most cost-effective service delivered with innovative technology to take us forward. So what we are proposing and recommending to you is the interim contract, and then alongside that we will work on a new service model. We want to look at all the options of delivering a new service post 26, whether it be a new contractual arrangement or bringing the service back in-house, possibly via an arm's length company. So we want to look at all those options that are available for us. A few points I'd like to draw your attention to, though, please. And paragraph 4.4 of the report outlines this. As this is a short contract and it's not changing the methodology of the waste service, we don't need public consultation. So we don't need to do that yet. However, should we in the future want to change the waste contract, then we would look at a detailed public consultation with the people of Bridgend. We would want to consult them on any changes in the future. We also have the right to acquire the plant and the equipment from Kier. And this was built into the initial contract. So what we will want to do is Kier have introduced some new kit and technology since the contract was first put into place. So we want to negotiate to acquire all of these assets. Now, this may require a capital programme allocation, or it could be dealt with by an EMR. But this would be subject to a further report, Leader. But what I would ask Cabinet is whether they could delegate that to myself and Caris as the Head of Finance to conduct those negotiations. The other point I'd like to draw your attention to is in paragraph 4.7, because there is an opportunity that exists to reduce our carbon with some immediacy from our waste collection. Now, long term, we definitely want to move to an ultra-low emission vehicle fleet as part of our strategy, but there's an interim step that we could make to move to hydrogenised vegetable oil derived fuel. Now, we know that our fleet can definitely run on this, our HGV fleet can run on it, and if we use this vegetable oil derivative, we could reduce our carbon footprint of our waste operation by 93.5%. We would save 975 tonnes of carbon emissions. So it's something that we're recommending that we proceed with in the interim period. Now, the cost of this is circa 75,000, but in the current contract with Kia, they would be willing to split the cost of that with us. What I'm recommending is we proceed with that and that we fund that additional cost for that fuel from the community's budget. So with that being said, please may I take you, Leader, to the recommendations in section 9 of the report.
Thanks so much, Janine. Councillor Spanzik, please.
Thank you, Leader. I'd like to move the report, and thanks, Janine, for the detail of where we are today. A lot of work is taking place to get to where we are today, and there's a lot more to take place for the future direction of the waste service that we provide for Bridgend County Borough Council. Except the fact that the current contract expires in March 24, and we have to put measures in place to be able to continue with the service in the short term, because we're not talking about changing the method of collection or any particular way of changing that in the short term up to 26. I do welcome the fact that we're going to look at all other options as well, and not just going for a tender at the moment, but looking at all other options of what may be achievable, whether that's in-house or other authorities or through arm's length. That nothing is off, all options are on the table at this stage to see how best we take the service forward in its current format and in the new format post 26, depending on what sort of targets we're given. I mean, I would like to say a lot of this success is down primarily to the public and the people of Bridgend County Borough taking part in the scheme, which has been with us for many years now, and the majority of people do participate and do a great job in recycling and sorting out their recyclates. I mean, there is an option, a small option within this period of 24 to slightly change and review perhaps some of the areas with the current problems with communal bin collections, and maybe there's an opportunity there to do some slight tweaking in the short term before we get to a completely new contract and a new method of collection, because it's quite clear that there are issues in some communal bin collection areas. And the hydrogenated, I think I can say hydrogenated vegetable oil bring us that nearly 1,000 tons of CO2 reduction. So that's a great opportunity. There's a cost to it, but there will be a cost if we're going to achieve our zero carbon 2030 commitments. So again, Leader, thanks for the report. Let's move it and look forward to working with the Director and the team on the future waste services model for Bridgend.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Spanzik. And I think you've reflected, and the Corporate Director has reflected on the success of recycling in Bridgend, and that is due to the efforts that residents put in, and due to the model that isn't in place across Wales, is it, Janine, where residents sort at the curbside effectively is how it's described. In other places it is commingled, but that does lead to a lower level of recycling, and I'm pleased to see that we're expected to achieve over 72% percentage of recycling this year, which is above, well above the statutory target. So I wanted to confirm that is one of the features that is important to our recycling success, is that different containers and different routes for recycling, and it does enable a cleaner level of recycling and less cross-contamination of different recycling streams.
Yes, absolutely, Leader. That's why we're so successful, because we sort at the curbside, or rather our residents sort at the curbside. Incidentally, others that don't do this are looking at us to try and change the methodology. For instance, in Cardiff, we have a green bag. We put all recycling in, and then it's taken to a centre and sorted. But Cardiff are not achieving anywhere near the standards that we are in Bridgend, and are struggling to meet the targets. I think that it would be fair to suggest that they are now looking at our methodology to try and improve recycling targets. So, you know, we're really proud of where we've come, but the credit has to be to our residents who participate so well in the scheme. And we're proud to say we're one of the top performing LAs in Wales in terms of our recycling rate.
Okay, thank you, Janine. Councillor Good, and then Councillor Williams, please.
Thank you, Leader. I just would like to mirror that really and say that I think we should be celebrating success. I think it's a really great achievement for Bridgend, and I completely support the ambition that we should be aiming to be the best of the best where we can. The only thing I would bring up, Janine, on this is I fully support the idea of this stepgap towards being as sustainable as possible with ULEV vehicles and taking that step towards a HVO instead in the interim. But can I ask that we look into where we source the fuel from to try and ensure that where possible, we're doubling down on that resource and not using new resources to find that oil for the vehicles. So if we could look into whether there are secondary sources to get them from, that would be great. Thank you.
No, absolutely, Councillor Good. I think you make a very valid point there. If we are moving to an alternative source, let's see if we can make that as green as possible to claim as much carbon as possible. So what we will do is look to see if it is, dare I say, a recycled vegetable oil derivative that is from a waste product, as opposed to just created for fuel. Yeah, that is something that definitely we'll look at, and we'll come back and report to you on it.
Thank you for that, Janine, and really welcome the proposals because it would actually reduce our carbon footprint from those vehicles by 93%, which is a staggering figure and achievement, reducing the tonnage of CO2 emissions by 975 per annum. But I also wanted to check, and perhaps you could go away and find out if it's generally there's a general improvement in air quality anyway, because it's not just about the carbon footprint, but it's about other pollutants that can be emitted by motor vehicles when they're using diesel or petrol, and that can improve overall air quality in communities across Bridgend as well. Thank you, Janine. Councillor Williams, please.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Just to second everything that's been said, really, and to second the report. It really is an appreciation to the residents of the County Borough for embracing the recycling targets. And it hasn't been a straightforward journey, and you know, we have learned lessons, and we will continue to learn lessons. But no, the recycling rates that we are getting now are very encouraging. And I suppose just to put into context that this report, you know, I mean, what we know is that Kia will not be in business at 2024. So there is a need to bridge that gap between 2024 and possibly 26 or whenever the time will be, because we'll need to understand from Welsh Government what what their aspirations are, so when we can sort of work that into our collection going forward. And also I'm pleased to note as well that, you know, I'm happy to delegate permission to officers to undertake the negotiations, but the final decision will come back to Cabinet. You know, the tender will not be awarded, the contract will not be awarded until there's a full Cabinet report with all the financial implications. So this is merely a tendering exercise at this stage. Thank you,
Absolutely, Councillor Williams, yeah.
And in terms of, that's a very good point, Councillor Williams, and in terms of the changes beyond the initial 2-year period, and there will be in the longer term potential changes to the model, so we can achieve a higher level of recycling. We'll obviously be engaging with all members through the overview and scrutiny process. I know that will be I'm sure right at the top of the agenda for colleagues, but that's when we've got more information. And at the moment, we are still waiting for more information from Welsh Government about their plans, about their targets, the details of those targets, and any mandatory requirements that may be made by Welsh Government. And as soon as we've got that information, then Janine, we can start to think about that longer term model as well, and certainly we'll be involving all members in that.
Yeah, I think we'll probably be having a number of reports over the next year, Leader, on this waste piece, not just for the interim contract, but as we move towards a future waste service. I would have thought it'd probably be a regular report to Cabinet on the progress.
Okay, thank you for that, Janine. So the recommendations have been moved and seconded. Is everyone in agreement with those recommendations, please? Yes. Okay. Thank you, colleagues. So the second report from the Corporate Director for Communities is on our Levelling Up Fund priority projects. Janine, please.
Well, thank you, Leader. So the purpose of this report, Cabinet, is to provide background on the Levelling Up Fund and to update you on the progress and on the projects that you had previously endorsed and those that will be submitted to this current round of funding in July. I think it's the 6th of July the round closes. So just a bit of background, really. It's set out in the report in section 3, but the Levelling Up Fund was announced in the 2020 UK Government Spending Review. It was mooted as a 4-year programme from now till 2025. It was worth about 4 billion overall, of which 800 million was earmarked for Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales. Now, LUF is meant to be used to invest in local infrastructure and capital projects that will have a visible impact on people and communities. The very words levelling up conjure up that for you. And some of the first criteria for the scheme were that it should be used for local transport schemes to improve accessibility, to be used for urban and economic regeneration projects, and to be used to support the development and retention of cultural assets. Now, the LUF programme itself is competitive. So each MP constituency in the UK can bid for that constituency up to £20 million per bid. And you must have the support of your local MP to put the bid in. And so far, that means for us that we have 2 constituency bids, one for Bridgend and one for Ogmore. And once you have a successful bid, you cannot bid again. So what is very, very important is we've got to make sure that our bids are high quality and high benefit, and that we use this scheme wisely. There's also a strategic transport bid. We're allowed 1 for the borough, and that can go up to £50 million in value. Now, each local authority is also encouraged to contribute at least 10% of match funding. Now, we are intending to seek match funding for our schemes from external bodies such as National Lottery Heritage, Welsh Government, Transport for Wales, etc. But for the purposes of submitting our bids in this stage, we are going to seek to underwrite that match funding from BCBC in the first instance, but with the determination that we will seek match funding for it as we go forward. Now, section 4 of this report sets out where we are currently. Now, Cabinet, you will recall that we had a report in November 21, which set out the potential projects that we wanted to take forward for each constituency. We then had detailed discussions with the Levelling Up team and with constituency MPs, and the position that we found ourselves is as follows. So I'll just detail the bids that we have. So for the Bridgend constituency, we're going to proceed with the Grand Pavilion Porthcawl as our bid. And we want to submit a detailed proposal to redevelop, to modernise and improve the pavilion. It's got the support of the MP in the area. It's working with Arwen, and it's a grade 2 listed building. And we want to do a number of things to that building which supports the cultural investment objectives of LUF. We want to address issues of the building fabric and the spalling of the concrete. We want to look at making it a state-of-the-art facility with things like new function spaces, a rooftop cafe overlooking the sea so we can have financial viability. We want to look at a new studio space and ancillary changing facilities for visiting groups and people who come and tour. We want to look at new welfare facilities, a change in place facility, but also with an eye on things of business creation. We want to look at business incubation units as well, small units for the arts, as well as office space. So really bringing that project back up to the 21st century, bringing that building and ensuring not just we protect cultural heritage, but that we can have a state-of-the-art facility going forward. Now, the project cost is around circa 14 million currently. We've committed BCBC about 200,000 so far on feasibility for the project. And as we spoke about a little earlier, we're going to seek that 10% match fund from National Lottery Heritage. Now, we've had discussions with them and they're very supportive of this scheme, and they're going to encourage us when the next round of bidding is open to bid for the match. So moving on to the Ogmore constituency project leader, we have previously reported to you and sought agreement to progress a series of enterprise hubs, an enterprise development project, which would be employment units and a wraparound of business support. And officers of BCBC felt it was what was needed in our valley communities to meet the needs and aspirations of levelling up. However, UK government officials, I'm afraid, were unsupportive of this project and thought that it would not find favour if it went forward. Now, that was really disappointing for us because as a council, we felt that levelling up meant jobs, economy, creation, us giving skills to people to establish businesses. But I'm afraid we couldn't take that one forward. So officers didn't have an opportunity then to develop another proposal in the amount of detail. So what we are proposing for Ogmore is that we look now to the communities, do some consultation and look what other projects are available, and that we try and take something forward for subsequent rounds of LEF. But I think that what might be prudent to do, Leader, is that we do contact UK government and explain our situation that we have in our communities, in our valleys communities, and how, and maybe ask them to consider whether employment use and or job creation could be part of levelling up criteria going forward. It's something that we're a little aghast at, wasn't considered in this round. So we want to work with partners in the Valleys communities to try and bring a bid forward. Now, the transport bid that we're allowed to apply for is going to be the Penprisk Bridge proposal for Pencode, and this new railway bridge and removal of the level crossing has been a long-standing project for Bridgend. We've had this on the books for some time. It's known about nationally and UK government, and it's also in our local development plan. So by putting a new two-way bridge over that main line and a new cycle and pedestrian bridge, we can look to reduce the congestion in the area, Leader, and we can look to lift that moratorium on development west of the crossing. It's something that really does impact not just in the local town but regionally. It's a project of significant benefit, a transport project. For the local region, not just locally. But it's highly complex and challenging. We are currently developing this project up with Network Rail. They're being commissioned to design those bridges for us, but we have a lot of local support here, local and national support from the MPs, from the Pencode Town Council, from Network Rail themselves, from Transport for Wales. They're all supporting this project for us. Now, it's quite clear that a major infrastructure project as this may go beyond the deadline for LEF. They've set the deadline, you have to deliver by March 25. But under exceptional circumstances, they will consider an extension for 1 year to March 26. So as part of this major bid, which currently stands at 25 million, it could be higher, Leader, when we can conclude the design stage. We are going to also ask for an extension to March 26 for exceptional circumstances. So that's the transport bit. So if I just take you very quickly to the section on finance and just to reiterate, so we've discussed the 10% match funding that we're required for these schemes and that we're going to source that money from external organisations. And also what is important to note is that in the capital programme we discussed earlier, in a report earlier, which will go to council tomorrow, there is an amount of 500,000 outlined to fund the design and development of that bridge at Penprisk. That 500,000 is just the design costs of the bridge itself, and not the costs of obviously the installation of the bridge. That is in the millions. But just to say that is Bridgend's contribution, not, you know, a fairly substantial contribution towards the scheme. So if I may please, Leader, that's the 3 bids. 2 will be submitted and we will revisit Ogmore and get a really good bid for that area. May I please take you to the recommendations in section 9 of the report?
Thanks so much for that, Janine. Very exciting proposals and plans for the county borough. I will bring Councillor Spanzik in first, please.
Oops, I'm in there. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Leader. Yeah, amazing report. Then, so absolutely. Well, Pencoed crossing has been how many years on the agenda, and every marvellous to see that come to fruition in many years' time. Well, not too many years' time, hopefully, but a lot of work to be done. So welcome that, and the same with the Granville in Porthcawl. Amazing seaside town we have Porthcawl there, and all the work going on in addition to the Granville Inn. It's all really good news for the future. It's unfortunate at this moment in time that the Ogmore bid can't go in, but if we take a bit longer, sometimes a little bit longer, to get a better scheme, and we'll have perfect opportunity. It is disappointing with Westminster government. Appear to think levelling up doesn't involve job creation and enterprise, but that's a decision that they've taken at this point in time, and maybe there's hope we can still work with them on that. But so look forward to further consultation to find out what's best for the Ogmore constituency to fit for the Valleys area there. But in the meantime, I'd like to move the report and welcome the stage we're at today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Spanzik. Councillor Farr, please.
I just wanted to second that movement from Councillor Spanzik, and I think it's really, really good opportunities, and I want to thank Janine for her work and the team for all the work that they put in there. And like we said, it is sad we haven't done anything for Ogmore, but hopefully next time round we can speak to the local people, see what they would benefit from. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Farr. It's important as well to emphasise that the work we undertook on plans to develop new enterprise hubs and additional commercial space for new small and micro businesses in the valleys has not been wasted. Indeed, that work is very valuable because we will look to see what other funding streams are available to progress those schemes, because we believe there was a very strong business case because of the demand for new business space across the county borough, including in our valley. So we will progress that, I am sure, and report back to colleagues. And then on the 2 projects that we are progressing, I know that there was a briefing before the election for local members in Pencoed about the Penprisk Bridge. I know there's cross-party support and support from members for that. I'm sure there will be for the redevelopment and record investment in the Grand Pavilion in Porthcawl. But I'm sure we'll want to brief local members there too, to make sure that local members are fully behind the scheme, because I know how much that iconic building is loved in Porthcawl and is such an important part of the fabric of the community of the town. And it is really exciting that we are looking at new function space, new rooftop functions. You can imagine how spectacular the views would be, the elevated sea views across the Bristol Channel, and for the first time having that new studio theatre and ancillary features, as well as conference facilities and potentially business incubation, could transform it into a place that could support functions and conferences even, but also build on the fantastic record of the Grand Pavilion as one of South Wales's premier arts and cultural venues. But it is an arts and cultural venue that was built over 80 years ago, and fundamentally the building has not changed, has it, Janine? And yet obviously the world has changed very much around it, and the needs and the demands for different spaces have certainly changed in that time. And this is an opportunity to reflect that in the building, whilst of course conserving and protecting the character of that listed Grade 2 listed building for the community of Porthcawl. And I'm sure there will be support, cross-party support. I know there will be from the MP for Bridgend, just as I know there will be for the MP for the Ogmore constituency for the bid for a new crescent at Pencoed, because that is a long-standing issue that at last we've made major progress on. But it will require a lot more work, and I know we will achieve that, just as we will in Porthcawl, by working in partnership with different agencies, UK government as well as Welsh government as well. So I'm really pleased that we've got these plans here today, and I look forward to future reports on progress. Is everyone in agreement with the recommendations, please, colleagues?
Right.
Thank you. And so we'll now receive the final report today from the Corporate Director for Communities, and that is on the hydrogen technology demonstrator project as part of our vision for net zero carbon Bridgend. Janine, please.
Oh, thank you, Leader. Well, I'm very excited to bring this detailed report to you today to outline where we've got to with which is another very exciting opportunity for us as part of our decarbonisation journey in Bridgend. And so the purpose of the report today is to update you on the demonstrator project that we have had put forward to us to produce locally produced green hydrogen that can support the decarbonisation of not just the council, but the wider region, really. So if I just give you a little bit of background, please, Leader, and it's in section 3 of the report. In March of this year, Cabinet will recall that you received a report on the Bridgend 2030 net zero carbon strategy, something that all local authorities across Wales have to produce, because of course we've got a mandate as a public sector body to get to a net zero carbon position by 2030. We now know we produce 90,000 tonnes of carbon a year in totality from our operations, and that's what we need to reduce. So an important part of this strategy is to demonstrate leadership and to commit to decarbonising our activities. Now, the decarbonisation sector is rapidly growing. It's rapidly evolving, and something that is becoming more and more important as part of that is the use of hydrogen technology, a key part in transport and a key part in energy. Now, in paragraph 3.5, it sets out in the report how we came upon this opportunity, this investment opportunity. But what was clear is Marubeni are a very large global conglomerate from Japan, one of the largest companies in the world. They specialise in energy and technology at the cut-in face of technology. For instance, they provide over 60% of the power in Portugal. They've got one of the largest solar farms in the world in Abu Dhabi to produce energy. So they are market leaders when it comes to innovative energy schemes. And they approached UK government and Welsh government back in 2021 because they wanted to look at investing in a hydrogen demonstrator project in the UK. Now, Welsh Government put Bridgend forward as the proposed, as a possible proposed location for Wales, and we were up against Sheffield in England, and Aberdeen was put forward in Scotland. And Marubeni came forward, looked at the 3 locations in the UK, and decided that because of the location, the availability of green energy, they wanted to continue to work with Bridgend. And the decision, we heard of our decision back in October of last year, Marubeni's intention to continue to work with us. And of course, Welsh Government were very, very pleased that we had been selected. Now, when I say selected, this was still about developing up a proposal, and then for us very much to decide whether we wanted to go ahead or not with this demonstrator project. Now, what was pledged was £26 million of investment. 13 million of it comes from Japanese government, and 13 million of it comes from Marubeni itself. Now, what that means is that Marubeni want to support the building of a hydrogen demonstrator plant that will be powered by a solar array of solar panels. So it'll be green hydrogen, and that's the USP of this. It's not any old hydrogen, it's locally produced green hydrogen. And then we can use it for 2 purposes. Number 1 is to fuel our fleet, decarbonise our fleet. And the second thing we can do with it is to look at using it for a heat application. So section 4 of this report really outlines the progress so far. But what I must say is that we want to continue to work with Marubeni on this project, but also with heavy involvement from Welsh Government and the city region, because they know that there will be regional and national benefits from Bridgend at the cutting edge of this technology. So we want to trial this, the use of this hydrogen fuel, if we proceed with the project, on our refuse vehicles and also some other hydrogen vehicles, some HGV vehicles in our fleet. Welsh Government are very interested in trialling some buses to run on hydrogen. And also South Wales Police are looking at whether they can use hydrogen fuel for their rapid response vehicles, because of the turnaround time, and hydrogen is much quicker than electric. Now, other local authorities are also very, very interested in this hydrogen application, Leader. What is clear is that electric does have its place in fleet, and electric vehicles have their place. But when it comes to very large vehicles, heavy goods vehicles or refuse collection vehicles, they need more torque and more power. Plus the turnaround time is very quick with hydrogen. So what we're not discounting is the use of electric vehicles. We will continue to use those for smaller fleet, but we think that hydrogen has a better application on refuse fleet. And we've started looking at other places in the UK. We went up to Merseyside and they've started commissioning a hydrogen refuse fleet. So we can see that this is similar practice, but we are at the cutting edge of this technology. So we want to continue to work with Welsh Government and the region on this together. Now, where we've got to in the process is that we're putting together a draft memorandum of understanding. This will set out how Bridgend will work with Marubeni to further develop this project up. Now, this memorandum of understanding is not legally binding, but what it is in essence is a sign of good faith. We'll continue to work together, and it will define what our working relationship is. It will define the scheme and what research will come out of it and what the benefits are, and it will set out what the roles and responsibilities for us are for us and for Marubeni. So, for instance, Marubeni will as set out, put the demonstrator and produce the hydrogen, and we will buy the demonstrator vehicles and use the hydrogen, and that would be set out in the memorandum. Important point to note here is that funding will need to be determined during this period. The funding for us to buy the fleet, and if we want to also trial hydrogen for heat, which we may want to do, we would have to fund any infrastructure to look at a heat application. So we're working with Welsh Government to possibly fund the vehicles, and the Cardiff City region have said they will look at an investment opportunity for us for the project overall. So it's clear that the funding for this project will come from Welsh Government and City region. So we need to continue to work now on the project. We need to develop out the details. We need to outline what the benefits will be for us, what our legal position is, and to what the funding is, as we just discussed. And then we want to come and report back to you at Cabinet, and then possibly if we do need anything else, we may need to go to council. But this is a very, very exciting project, Leader. And so what I would like to do is please take you to the recommendations in section 9 to allow us to enter into this memorandum of understanding with Marubeni to continue to develop up this project, to commission some specialist advice should we need it in particular areas, and then to come back to you at a later date with a finalised report to show the next steps in the process and where we've got to with this demonstrator project. So thank you, Leader.
Thanks very much, Janine. Councillor Spanzik, please.
Thank you, Leader, and thanks, Janine, for this report. I think it's exciting times in many ways. There's still a lot of unknown, maybe, as we're at the cutting edge. This is Bridgend punching above its weight UK-wide, and for Bridgend to be chosen to be partners with Marubeni, it's just £26 million investment locally at least. But the opportunities it provides afterwards, it's probably unknown in total what the opportunities are out there, and you have to take a bit of risk sometimes to lead the way, and that's clearly the case here. I don't fully profess to understand hydrogen energy and green hydrogen energy, but I hope to understand a lot better over the coming weeks and months. And it may be one that's suitable further down the road for full council to have a presentation or something on the whole project and what green hydrogen energy is. But it's a marvellous opportunity. We welcome it with open arms, I say, Bridgend, and thanks for the report. And I'd like to formally move the report as presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Spanzik. Councillor Williams is next, please.
Yes, thank you, Leader, and I'm very happy to support this. I don't know how many times we can say this is a very exciting project, but it certainly is a very exciting project. It puts us in a very good place on our journey to reduce our carbon footprint. Of course, this project began in the previous administration, and I would like to recall my thanks to the previous cabinet member as well, and yourself, Leader, for for building those relationships, because we certainly thought of very strong bids from other regions in the UK to win this project, and I'm very pleased that we can sort of Bridgend can continue its relationship with our Japanese partners and build on the relationship we have with the with our Sony partners, and begin a new friendship now with the Marubeni Corporation. This is a demonstrator, and obviously it's a learning journey, and on learning journeys you learn lessons, don't you? So but the opportunities that can come from this will be massive, and I'm really excited to follow this journey and to be a part of it, and I'm sure it'll place Bridgend in a very good position to minimise our carbon footprint and minimise our impact on the planet. So it's a very exciting project. Thank you, Leader.
It is very exciting, Councillor Williams, and I'd also pay tribute to the efforts and the work of the previous cabinet member, Councillor Young, who was a very passionate and enthusiastic champion for the pioneering work that we've undertaken together with partners in higher education, together with partners in the private sector as well, and I know that will be our approach going forward, Janine. And it's also important to note that Welsh Government are very supportive of the work that we've undertaken so far, and are supportive of the work that we plan to undertake in the future, and that will be are crucial because they will be able to bring the funding that we need to progress this, because we want obviously to wherever possible, and we know it's possible here, to secure outside funding, match funding to progress the scheme. So it's not a significant cost to the taxpayer of Bridgend. We're actually planning to secure funding that's been made available by the Japanese government, because this is so pioneering. And as Councillor Spanzik has described, we will certainly look at ways that we can brief all members, because it's a project across the county borough. And certainly once we've identified specific sites, then we will also ensure that the local members have the detailed briefings that they'll need to understand the technology and the impact of the project.
No, absolutely, Leader. As we develop this, again, we'll bring back reports, and we're very welcome to do briefings on it, because it is very, a very innovative project at the cutting edge. And I think just the fact that Welsh Government recommended Bridgend out of all local authorities in Wales as the people to take up this opportunity demonstrates that we are one of the foremost local authorities in Wales when it comes to innovation. For instance, we were one of the first who had the Bridgend District Heat Network. We were the first to gain monies for that. We were the first to have a local area energy strategy in Wales, Leader. And now, of course, we've been suggested for this hydrogen demonstration project. So, I think we should be very proud of our reputation in Bridgend as being at cutting edge of innovation. And hopefully, if we continue to work with Marubeni, we can deliver a demonstrated project here of benefit, not just to us, but to the region. And that's the plan for us going forward.
Thanks, Janine. And again, it's noteworthy that this project has been supported and is advised by Professor Ron Loveland, one of the leading experts in hydrogen technology in the UK. And he's brought his weighty academic and research and development expertise to this project, and we'll continue to look to higher education and to specialists and experts in the field to support us in this exciting project. Thank you, Janine. The recommendations have been moved and seconded. Everyone in agreement, please?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
And we'll receive the next report. Thank you for that, Gina. I think that's your last report today. We'll receive the first report now of the Corporate Director for Education and Family Support, and it's in the appointment of local authority governors. And it's over to you, please, Lindsay.
Thanks, Leader. The purpose of this report is to seek approval from Cabinet for the appointment of local authority governors to the school governing bodies listed in paragraph 4 of the report. The background to this report is set out at paragraph 3. So, Leader, you'll note that for the 15 current local authority governor vacancies at the 13 schools in the paper, all applicants meet the approved criteria for appointment as a local authority governor, and there is no competition for these vacancies. The recommended appointments are set out at paragraph 4. You'll also note there was competition for one vacancy at one school, and the officer panel scrutinised the applications and noted that Councillor Neil Farr has recently become an elected member for part of the school's catchment area since the submission of the application form. Therefore, in accordance with the criteria identified in the aforementioned council guidance, the recommended appointment is Councillor Neil Farr. Leader, before I conclude the report, it's worth noting that we have 43 local authority governor vacancies across our schools. Finally, I take the recommendations at paragraph 9.
Thank you for that, Lindsay. Councillor Blundell, please.
Yes, thank you, Leader, and thank you, Lindsay, for presenting the report there. No, I'd just like to firstly move the report, and I'd also like to thank everyone who's put their name forward to be a school governor. It's a task that many volunteers take on, and I think it's an important one for many people in the community, because governance of schools is very important. and something that we all should be very interested in. I'd also like to put a plea out to any local members on this call and to any media that are on this call, to a call to arms that there are still many vacancies on schools and we need as many people to apply as possible. I'd also like to hope that the person who went for Porthcawl Comprehensive and lost Councillor Farr, hope that they don't get discouraged and they reapply, because we need willing volunteers to do these things. They are very important. So please go on the website for the application form, look out for the vacancies, and please apply for your local schools. It's really important. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you for that, Councillor Blundell, and I can see that a number of backbench cabinet members have joined us today for the meeting. That's really heartening to see, and I'd encourage colleagues, Councillor Bennett, Bledsoe, Griffiths, John, Williams. There's lots of colleagues, new members, and there's not just this route actually in terms of local authority appointment. I know a number of colleagues actually are governors through, for example, minor authority representation or as a parent governor as well. So there are different routes, but obviously the main route for many members is as a local authority representative. And I should add as well and emphasise that this is open to members of the public. It is not only for local authority members, though of course local authority members are welcome and encouraged to attend and to apply, I should say. So thank you, Councillor Blundell. The recommendations have moved and seconded. Everyone in agreement, please? Yes. So we'll now need to invite back in colleagues that had to step out from the meeting for that item. So Councillor Williams and Councillor Farr, I think, are back in the meeting, in which case we will continue to the next report, and the next report is an update on our school modernisation programme and the plans for Mynydd Cymfig Primary School and the outcome of the published statutory notice. Lindsay, please.
Thank you, Leader. The purpose of this report is to inform Cabinet of the outcome of the published statutory notice in respect to the proposed enlargement of Mynydd Cymfig Primary School. It's to seek approval to publish the objection report as prescribed by the School Organisation Code, to seek approval to implement the proposal with effect from the beginning of autumn term 2025, and to seek approval to issue and publish a decision letter as prescribed by the Code. Leader, the background to this report is set out at paragraph 3. Members will be aware that in November 2019, the Mynydd Cymfig Primary School infant site suffered a catastrophic failure of its heating system, and the repair forced the temporary closure of the school building. A subsequent building condition survey reduced the school from its previous condition, that is C, to a category D. That is bad, life expired, at risk of imminent closure, requiring significant, immediate, urgent works. The nature and assortment of the disrepairs highlighted within the survey made isolated repair work to individual fabric elements of the school extremely challenging and economically unfeasible. As a result of the health and safety risks, the pupils and staff who agreed the school building would close and alternative teaching accommodation would be provided as a matter of urgency. Leader, you'll recall that in June 2020, Cabinet approval received to prioritise Band B, bringing forward the replacement school scheme for Mynydd Cymfig Primary School. And following Welsh Government approval and consultation process undertaken between November 21 and January 22, Cabinet approval was granted to proceed to a statutory public notice. The statutory public notice was published in March 22, and formal written objections were invited during this time. The Council received one email in respect of the proposal during the statutory notice period. Legal advice was sought, and it was recommended to consider the correspondence as an objection to the proposal. Excuse me. An objection report must now be published summarising the objection and the local authority's response to the objection. Cabinet will now need to consider the proposal in light of the objection, and Cabinet can then accept, reject or modify the proposal. The attached objection report sets out the objection received and the local authority's response. Leader, I take you now to paragraph 8 and the financial implications associated with this report. You'll note that 10.2 million has been allocated in the capital programme for this project, with Welsh Government intervention rate being 65%. Members will note that contractor inflation, along with the impact of COVID-19 and Brexit, will have a detrimental impact on the scheme costs. Welsh Government has recently issued revised cost standards to local authorities, and the impact of these revisions, which not only address the price increases, but also cover decarbonisation and the commitment to deliver net zero carbon schools, as in the process of being considered by officers. This impact will be reported in due course and will continue to be reviewed regularly through the course of the project. Any changes to the total cost of the scheme or council contributions will, of course, be reported back to Cabinet and Council as appropriate. Leader, you'll be aware that as part of the scheme, there's a requirement to use council-owned land currently occupied by Pwllgarth Allotment Association and the Air Training Corps in order to develop the school. Any potential revenue costs involved with the movement of the allotments and ATC would be minimal. Therefore, Leader, I take it to the recommendations at paragraph 9. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that. Very quick but still comprehensive outline of the report. Councillor Blundell, please.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. First of all, I'd like to move the report, and I just want to thank the officers for their hard work on this as well. It's been it's a really exciting project to bring a brand new school into Comfig. I think parents and teachers and students alike are looking forward to the day they get their new campus, and I hope that we'll be able to deliver that in as quick as possible. On the allotments, obviously we have had the objection, and I think we've dealt with that through officers and negotiations with new chicken coops, which I'm sure Lindsay has kindly offered to build for them, I think, but we open those negotiations, but working with the allotments, we've given them now a new home that will be able for their use for the future and give them the stability that they need as well. So thank you, Leader. I'd like to move the report.
Thank you for that, Councillor Blundell. That's very good news that we've been able to reach that agreement with the allotments, and they now see the benefits actually of this, the development to them, as well as of course to the children and the pupils of Mynydd Comfig Primary School. And I know much they are looking forward, the whole community is looking forward to the plans for a new school. Do I have a seconder for the recommendations, please?
Second.
Thank you. And is everyone in agreement with the recommendations, please?
Aye.
Thank you, colleagues. The next report that we have is another report on school modernisation programme. This time it's an update on the Heronsbridge School and the outcome of the consultation process for that school. And once again, it's a report of the Corporate Director for Education and Family Support. Lindsay, please.
Thank you, Leader. The purpose of this report is to inform Cabinet of the outcome of the consultation in respect to the proposal to make regulated alterations to Heronsbridge School, to present the findings of the consultation in a detailed consultation report, and to seek approval to progress the publication of a statutory notice as prescribed in the School Organisation Code. Leader, the background of the report is set out at paragraph 3. In March 2021, ministerial approval was received in respect to the strategic outline business case for a replacement 300-place Heronsbridge Special School plus residential provision. Members will be aware that currently there are 236 pupils on roll at the school. Although every effort has been made to make best use of the existing building, it is not fit for purpose. The outcome of the feasibility study is to consider the development of the new school on privately owned land at Island Farm, Bridgend, and this was reported to Cabinet in March 2022. The approval was received to commence the statutory consultation process. The proposed new school would open from the beginning of autumn term 2025, that is September 2025. And in order to progress the proposed regulated alterations to Heronsbridge School, the consultation exercises were carried out between April and May this year in accordance with the code. A summary of the issues raised by consultees and the local authorities' responses are provided in the consultation report as detailed at Appendix A of this report, and Cabinet will need to consider the consultation report and determine the preferred way forward. Should Cabinet wish to proceed with the proposal, the next stage of the process is to publish a statutory notice outlining the proposal, which would need to be published for a period of 28 days. Then any formal written objections will be invited during this time. If there are no objections during the statutory notice period, then the proposal can be implemented with Cabinet approval. If there are objections in the statutory notice stage, an objection report will be published summarising the objections and the local authority's response to those objections. Cabinet will need to consider the proposal in light of any objections made, and Cabinet could then accept, reject or modify the proposal. Paragraph 4.5 of the report provides an indication of the likely timescales involved. Members will note that £25 million has been allocated within the capital budget for this programme, and the Welsh Government intervention rate is 75%. Members will note that the contracted inflation, along with the impact of COVID-19 and Brexit, will have a detrimental impact on the scheme costs. And as previously reported in the last report, Leader, Welsh Government has recently issued revised cost standards to local authorities in this regard. This impact will be reported in due course and will continue to be reviewed regularly throughout the course of the project, and any changes to the total cost of the scheme or council contributions will be reported back to Cabinet and Council in due course. Leader, in conclusion, I take you to the recommendations of paragraph 9. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Lindsay. Again, a comprehensive report and a very helpful outline of that report. Councillor Blundell, please.
Thank you, Leader. Again, I'm really excited about this project. It's a new purpose-built 21st century school, a special school, which we hope we have the aspiration to make the best special school in Wales. I think that's the real aspiration of this local authority and of this department. I also think that with that the parents, pupils and head teacher are all very excited about this, and it's going to be a purpose-built building. I think that's the point we have to remember. This is the current building that they have is not fit for what they need, and now we need a purpose-built building especially for them, so that they can get the education that they deserve and need. So I'm very happy to move this report, Leader, and I hope Cabinet colleagues will agree. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Blundell. Do I have a seconder for that set of recommendations, please?
Yeah, I'll second that, Leader.
Thank you for that, Councillor Farr. I have to say it was very uplifting to read the consultation report, particularly the feedback that we receive from students and how powerful the voice of the learner is in this process. Because actually they made a number of requests and points, and we've addressed them all. So they were keen that, for example, they had facilities for their daily mile walk, and we've said that they'll have a perimeter track. They wanted allotments. We've identified that there will be allotments. They wanted to continue with their orchard, and we've said that we will plant an orchard at the school because that's a very important feature of the current school. And of course, there are specialist facilities that you would not expect in other schools, but are very important in any special schools. In particular, the swimming pool that will offer hydrotherapy facilities, and of course the rebound therapy rooms that have grown in importance in the school as the school has developed on its current site. And of course, the all-weather pitches will be important to the school as well. I know how much use they have of the facility at the current site on Owenny Road. And of course, like all the young people at Heronsbridge wanted to know that the school would be a green school, and that there would be solar panels, and that there would be the highest level of installation, and we will be having air source and ground source heat pumps to minimise the impact. Councillor Blundell, I can see that you wanted to come in.
Yeah, no, thank you, Leah, because it was a point I forgot to add in when I was moving the report. There has been a lot, especially in this report, made about Hut 9, and they don't. And I just want to make perfectly clear that if this goes ahead, there will be no moving, damaging, whatever to Hut 9. It is a protected building and protected site, and this local authority stands by that. And this new school will not have any detrimental impact upon that site. I just wanted to make that perfectly clear, because I know it's been in the report, it's on social media as well. And I think that's a very important point we have to make, as well as all the amazing attributes that this school is going to have, Leader. I think it's going to be a fabulous school, and I can't wait to hopefully one day open it.
That's right, and we've got a fabulous school with fabulous teaching and learning at the moment, but unfortunately the facilities are not fabulous, and we have to address that. And I think that I couldn't have put it better than the head teacher and the way he described that in the report on page 134, and his aspiration and his staff's aspiration and parents' aspirations and governor's aspirations for the school, and I think we'll be delivering on those aspirations. Councillor Blundell has importantly highlighted the protection that will be offered to Het 9. It is protected by listing and by law. What is also protected and will be protected is the current building that is used by Heronsbridge, the current school site. That is listed and protected by Cadw, so we will come forward with plans for that. And again, I noticed in the consultation there was reference to the site of important nature conservation at Island Farm. And it's quite clear, and we need to be clear here, that this is not going to be located on that site. It will not have any impact on the site of important nature conservation, and indeed, as part of our plans, there will be biodiversity enhancements on the site that will be part of the life of the school, no doubt, just as it is in all our new schools, and an important part of the learning process for pupils. So the recommendations have been moved and seconded. Is everyone in agreement with those recommendations, please, colleagues? Yes, thank you. The next report, another report from the Corporate Director for Education and Family Support, another report on our 21st Century School Modernisation Programme, this time on the progress of plans for Ysgol Gymraeg Bro Ogw and the outcome of that consultation process. Lindsay, please.
Thank you, Leader. So the purpose of this report is to inform Cabinet of the outcome of the consultation to the proposed enlargement of Ysgol Gymraeg Bro Ogw, to present the findings of the consultation in a detailed consultation report, and to seek approval to publish a consultation report to progress the publication of a statutory notice as prescribed in the School Organisation Code. Leader, the background of this report is set out at paragraph 3. Following ministerial approval in November 21 and Cabinet approval in January 22, a statutory consultation was progressed to make a regulated alteration to enlarge Bro Ogw to a 2.5 form entry school with a 90-place full-time equivalent nursery plus an 8-place observation and assessment class on land off Ffordd Cadfan in Brackley. The proposal will come into effect at the beginning of autumn term 2025, that is September 2025. In order to progress the proposed regulated alteration to Ysgol Gymraeg Bro Ogw in the form of an enlargement, consultation exercises were carried out between February 2022 and March 2022 in accordance with the Statutory School Organisation Code. The consultation invited views and opinions to be submitted in respect to the proposal. A summary of the issues raised by the consultees and the local authorities' responses are provided in the consultation report as detailed at Appendix A of this report. Cabinet will need to consider the consultation report and determine the preferred way forward. Should Cabinet wish to proceed with the proposal, the next stage of the process is to publish a statutory notice. Any formal written objections would be invited during this time, and if there are no objections during the public notice period, then the proposal can be implemented with Cabinet's approval. If there are objections at this public notice stage, an objections report will be published summarising the objections and the local authority's response to those objections, and Cabinet will need to consider the proposal in light of any objections made. As with the other reports, Leader, Cabinet could then accept, reject or modify the proposal. Paragraph 4.6 provides an indication of the likely timescales involved. It's worth noting that in January 2022, Cabinet was advised that the proposed enlargement of Ysgol Gymraeg Bro Ogw was intrinsically linked to a potential alternative use of the residual Ysgol Gymraeg Bro Ogw school building for English medium education. In light of feedback received during the recent consultation process, officers will now revisit the options appraisal in due course and recommend a way forward for the future use of the current school site, subject to the successful outcome of the statutory process in respect of this proposal. Leader, you'll be aware that 12.6 million has been allocated in the capital programme for this project, and the Welsh Government intervention rate for this purpose is 65%. As previously advised, contractor inflation, the impact of COVID-19 and Brexit will have a detrimental impact on the scheme costs. And again, the Welsh Government has recently issued revised cost standards to all local authorities in this regard. This impact will be reported in due course and will continue to be reviewed regularly through the course of the project. Therefore, Leader, I take the recommendations as reported, paragraph 9. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Lindsay. Councillor Blundell, please.
Thank you, Leader. I'd like to firstly thank officers for the report. There's a lot of hard work gone into this report here, as with all of them today. I think this development is a really important step in developing Welsh language in Bridgend. I think it's a key part. It's going to be the biggest Welsh medium school in Bridgend County Borough, I believe, and up there as one of the largest schools as 2.5 form entry in Bridgend, English or Welsh medium. So it's a very key, important move by this local authority. It's going to be, again, a state-of-the-art building to help develop Welsh language and allow the school to grow and allow the Welsh language to grow and flourish in Bridgend. And as well, it just goes to show that Welsh language is a key commitment of this cabinet and of this local authority. We are key to driving Welsh language and making sure there are more Welsh language speakers in this country and in this county, and this goes a long way to showing that. So I'm very happy to remove the report. Leader, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Blundell. Councillor Spanzik, please.
Thank you, Leader, and I too would like to welcome the report and formally second the report. It's great to see what the proposal we have before us today. It's been a few years getting there. I won't go back to the past to where it might have ended up, but it's on the right site now. The proposal on Forth Calvin and the early plans I've seen. It's an exciting project with the school, community facilities, and the separate sort of dropping off, picking up facilities was beyond the industrial estate, sort of segregated from the schools. There's some really good initiatives there coming in, which will bring a benefit to the health and safety of sort of pupils travelling to and from the school. It's great to see that the community council, both Coity and Brackla, have taken part in the consultation process, and they've fed back their views, and all that's been taken on board. So, and there's been consultation with the staff as well, and pupils, and we all will produce a marvellous facility, I'm sure. And the sooner, I think it's 2025, it's not that far off. I look forward to seeing this school built on site, and you know, better services for the Welsh language, the future, and many more, I guess, are welcome. So thank you, Leader. Thank you, Lindsay, for the report, and look forward to the future development.
Thanks so much, Councillor Spanzik, and I'm really pleased to see that included in our proposals, and they've been very much supported by the school as plans for an infant's observation class for children with additional learning needs. I think that's very important. So we provide that support for children in the medium of Welsh, as well as through the medium of English. And also reading the again the comprehensive consultation that took place, and a big thank you to everyone that responded to the consultation. I know there was concern about the availability of space in the near future and in the short term, and I was really pleased that I think it was on St David's Day this year that Welsh Government announced additional funding for local authorities across Wales, including for Bridgend. And we will be progressing the provision of additional classrooms at Bro Ogw that will significantly increase capacity before 2025, so that we can accommodate more of those children now. And actually that will help to the transition of making this a much bigger school and meeting that demand for Welsh medium places. I don't know, Lindsay, if we have any more news about the siting of those additional classrooms, but if not, I'm sure we could receive that, and we'll receive that at a future meeting. So the recommend. Thank you, Lindsay. So the recommendations have been moved and seconded. Is everyone in agreement with those recommendations, please, colleagues?
Yep.
Thank you. The next report is another report from the Corporate Director for Education and Family Support, and this time it's on the outcome of a consultation to open provision for pupils with ALN at Canoed Sant in Maesteg, provision for pupils with moderate learning difficulties. Lindsay, please.
Thank you, Leader. The purpose of this report is to inform Cabinet the outcome of the consultation to open additional provision for pupils with moderate learning difficulty at Ysgol Canoed Sant in Maesteg. It's also to present the findings of the consultation in a detailed consultation report and to seek approval to progress the publication of the statutory notice as prescribed in the School Organisation Code. Leader, again, the background of this report is set out at paragraph 3. Members will be aware that local authorities across the United Kingdom are experiencing a rise in demand for services and children with young people with additional learning needs, and the cost to support this budget is important. In this context, many local authorities are reviewing their current provision to respond to changes in demand and to make services fit for purpose in terms of addressing the current and future needs of children and young people with ALN. 2 years ago, Bridgend County Borough Council undertook a proactive approach to this by commissioning an additional learning needs strategic planning review. And one of the areas that was identified with the review was additional provision for Key Stage 2 pupils with moderate learning difficulties who attend Welsh medium provision. In order to progress the proposal, consultation exercises were carried out in January and February this year in accordance with the School Organisation Code. The consultation document invited views and opinions to be submitted in respect to the proposal, and a summary of the issues raised by consultees and the local authorities' responses are provided in the consultation report as detailed as Appendix A of this report. As previously advised, Leader, the Cabinet will need now to consider the consultation report and determine the preferred way forward. Should Cabinet wish to proceed with the proposal, the next stage of the process is to publish a statutory notice outlining the proposals, which would need to be published for a period of 28 days, and any formal written objections would be invited during this time. If there are no objections during the public notice period, then the proposal can be implemented with Cabinet's approval, and if there are objections in this public notice stage, an objections report will be published summarising the objections and the local authority's response to those objections. Cabinet will need to consider the proposal in light of objections, and then they could accept, reject or modify the proposal. The timetable at paragraph 4.4 of this report provides an indication of the likely timescales involved in this proposal. The funding for the Learning Resource Centre would be allocated through the mainstream schools delegated budget via the school's funding formula allocation using a combination of a class allocation and the age-weighted unit element. One-off funding for the setup cost would be in the region of £10,000, and as part of the medium-term financial strategy for 21-22, a budget pressure of £60,000 was approved, and an additional primary school MLD LLC class to cater for Key Stage 2 children accessing education through the medium of Welsh. The budget will be used to fund the LRC, including the setup costs at Canoed Sant, should the proposal go ahead. Leader, with that, I take you to the recommendations at paragraph 9 of the report. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Blundell. You want to come in, please?
Yeah, this is slowly becoming the Lindsay and Councillor Blundell show, but I will firstly move the report and thank you to everyone at the school, Ysgol Canoed Sant, for taking part in this. I think this is a great initiative, and I'm probably going to say very similar things for the next report, but I think it's a great move forward, and I hope it is as much a success as we hope it is. So happily move the report, Leader, and happy to go on.
Thanks very much, Councillor Blundell. Do I have a seconder for that?
Yeah, I'll second that, Leader. Sorry, I've got a lot of background noise. I'm still in Brighton, sorry.
That's okay, no problem, Councillor Farr. Thank you for seconding that recommendation, and it is undoubtedly progress for this report and the second report. This is about inclusive education, and that's at the heart of our strategy for supporting children with additional learning needs, identifying wherever we can opportunities to support children in mainstream community schools, but providing them with the specialist support that they need in those learning resource centres. And this Learning Resource Centre will provide exactly that. And for the first time in the north of the borough, in the medium of Welsh, as well. And I know that the whole school can often benefit, can't it, from that resource, because there will be other children within the school that may not be eligible for direct support within the provision, but have additional needs and can benefit from the specialist staff that become members of the whole staff, whole school community and whole school staff. So I'm really pleased to see this, and I know parents will be thrilled, and that came across in the consultation response for both proposals, that they want that opportunity for their children to be educated in a local primary school, and that's exactly what we will be offering here. And I know that we'll continue to consider and review provision across the county borough, just as we've done in recent years. And if we need to develop a new provision, we will develop a new provision. But of course, it does depend upon space and availability of buildings, but also ensuring as well that schools have the ethos and they have the support for this, and we're very lucky that Cynnwys Sant is very excited and very keen that this provision is developed here, and that will be the key to what will be, I'm sure, a very successful new provision at the school. So is everyone in agreement with those recommendations in this proposal, please? Thank you, colleagues, and we will move on to the next report. And I think this is the final report from the Corporate Director for Education and Family Support, and this is on our plans for a new Learning Resource Centre for children with autism at Tremaines Primary School. Lindsay, please.
Thank you, Leader. So the purpose of this report is to inform Cabinet of the outcome of the consultation to open provision for pupils with autistic spectrum disorders at Tremaines Primary School. It's designed to present the findings of the consultation in a detailed consultation report and to seek approval to progress the publication of a statutory notice as prescribed in the School Organisation Code. The background of this report is set out at paragraph 3. With your permission, Leader, I will not repeat the narrative I provided in the previous report, and I'll continue with the main body of the report. So one of the areas that's been identified for additional provision is at Key Stage 2 for children with ASD, and there's an identified need to open an additional LRC for children with ASD within the county borough. Adaptation works to Tremaines Primary Schools have begun, and this would afford the space required to open an LRC for pupils with ASD. In order to progress the proposal, consultation exercises were carried out in January and February this year in accordance with the Statutory School Organisation Code. A summary of the issues raised by the consultees and the local authorities' responses are provided in the consultation report as detailed at Appendix A of this report. Cabinet will need to consider the consultation report and determine the preferred way forward. Should Cabinet wish to proceed with this proposal, the next stage of the process is to publish a statutory notice outlining the proposals, and any formal written objections would be invited at this point. If there are no objections in the public notice period, then the proposal can be implemented with Cabinet approval. If there are objections at this public notice stage, an objections report will be published summarising the objections and the local authority's response to those objections. Cabinet could then accept, reject or modify the proposal. The timetable at paragraph 4.4 of this report provides an indication of the likely timescales involved with this proposal. The funding for the LRC would be allocated through the mainstream schools dedicated budget via the school's funding formula allocation and using a combination of class allocation and the AWPU element. Funding levels would be derived from notional current staff needs and are based on the salary of a teacher and 2 support staff. One-off funding for the setup cost would be in the region of £10,000, and as part of the MTFS 2021-2022, a budget pressure of £82,000 was approved, an additional primary school ASD LRC class to cater for Key Stage 2 children. The budget will be used to fund the LRC, including setup costs at Tremaines Primary School, should the proposal go ahead. Therefore, Leader, I take you to the recommendations of paragraph 9. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Blundell, please.
Thank you, Leader. I completely agree with your previous comments. I think this is about making sure every child gets the support they need. And I think this these two reports, they go a very long way into doing that. I have family who have autism, and I wish they had this level of support when they went to school, because it's going to be a lot of help to a lot of students and a lot of parents and teachers. So I'm very happy to move this report, and I think it's a brilliant step in the right direction. Thank you, Linda.
Thanks so much, Councillor Blundell. Do I have a seconder for that recommendation, please?
Yes, Leader, Councillor Farr.
Thank you, Councillor Farr. Once again, it's evident from the consultation process how much support there is from the school, from the staff, from the governors, and of course from pupils at the school. And it is of note that the school already has a number of specialist classes, so it's very experienced in supporting children with additional learning needs, and ensuring that wherever possible they access mainstream activities and are very much part of the whole school, and that is fundamental to the success of this provision, is that the children are in specialist provision, but they're very much part of the whole school. So I'm very pleased to support this too, and ask, is everyone in agreement with the proposals, please, colleagues?
Yep.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Lindsay. You can have a drop of water now.
Thank you, Leader.
Or something stronger if you want it. That's the last of your reports. We now have a report of the monitoring officer, and it's on the proposed dates for meetings of Cabinet Committee Equalities and Cabinet Committee Corporate Parenting. Kelly, please.
Thank you, Leader. For the purposes of the recording, my name is Kelly Watson. I'm the monitoring officer for the authority. The purpose of this report today, members, is to propose for your approval the programme of meeting dates for Cabinet Committee Equalities and Cabinet Committee Corporate Parenting for 2022-23. The proposed programme of meetings is set out for you in your papers at paragraph 4.1. I would ask you to note that the date for the budget cabinet meeting could be subject to change depending on the timeline of the local government settlement. If Cabinet approve these dates today, they will then be placed in members and officers' electronic calendars. Members will be aware and should have received a survey for the timings of committee meetings going forward. The feedback is being collated, and this will be reported to Council in July. Once we have those outcomes, we'll let you know if there's any changes to the timings of meetings. Members, if there are any questions, I'm happy to take them, but if not, I'd ask you to approve the meeting dates as set out in the report.
Okay, thank you for that. Kelly, do I have a mover for the recommendation, please? Thank you, Councillor Good. Do I have a seconder for the recommendation, please?
Second.
Everyone in agreement, please? Thank you, colleagues. And of course, we will return to the makeup of those two cabinet committees in due course, won't we, Kelly? The next item is again a report of the monitoring officer, and it's on representation on outside bodies and joint committees. Kelly, please.
Thank you, Leader. As you've said, the purpose of this report is to seek Cabinet's approval for the appointment of members to joint committees and the nomination of members to outside bodies. The full list of those bodies and committees is appended to your report at Appendix 1. Outside bodies are external organisations and partnerships which have formally requested that the Council appoint a representative to them. They have separate governance structures to the Council, and appointments to outside bodies can be an important mechanism for the County Borough to show community leadership, partnership and joint working. The appointment of County Borough councillors to serve on outside bodies is intended to be a mutually beneficial act for both the Council and the bodies listed, and the implications are considered to be positive for both parties. In 2021, we undertook a review of the appointments of councillors to various outside bodies to ensure they remained relevant and the appropriateness of the membership. With regard to making appointments, Cabinet should first consider whether it is appropriate for an appointment to be of a specific office holder, either by reference to the Constitution or the outside body concerned, or in light of any other circumstances. Consultation was undertaken with external bodies as part of the review process for outside bodies, and Office has also consulted regarding future ongoing representations on those bodies. Feedback has been fed into the proposals for member representations of outside bodies, and again, this is noted in your schedule at Appendix 1. Leader, it's currently proposed that members are appointed for a term of 1 year, except where earlier revocation of the appointment is appropriate. It is proposed that where Cabinet members are nominated on the basis of a role within the authority, the appointment is attached to the role and not to the individual currently holding that role. All appointments are made with the assumption that the appointees represent Bridgend County Borough Council. So should any appointee cease to be a Bridgend County Borough Councillor, they will cease to represent this authority and are expected to relinquish their appointments where necessary. Unless any questions, Leader, I take it the recommendations at paragraph 9.1 and the Appendix 1 attached to the report.
Okay, do I have a mover for the recommendation, please?
Moved.
Do I have a seconder for the recommendation, please?
Second.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. And there's just some representation that I wish to advise colleagues of today. Most of the representation is listed in the appendix, isn't it, Kelly? Because as you've described, convention is that, for example, the Cabinet Member for Community sits on Christchurch Crematorium Joint Committee due to the portfolio, but there's a small number of representations to be made, and I have some that I can report today, or I can do that at a subsequent meeting. Kelly, I'd obviously take your advice on that.
Thank you, Leader. I think in the circumstances, we've got the provisional list attached to the report. I think what may be useful is when that list is complete, we circulate to all members and we can publish that then on our website. I'd also like to remind members that at Appendix 1, number 7, the Arwen Cultural Trust, there's been a recent change in governance arrangements, so we no longer have to appoint on a committee there.
Okay, thank you for that, Kelly. And to reassure colleagues, there's been some discussion around this, and there's been a review and a refresh of the governance arrangements, and to continue to maintain that close relationship and that role of members. A advisory board will be convened, and there will be member representation on that advisory board, and that very much mirrors, and I'm sure the Chief Executive can confirm this, it very much mirrors the arrangements we have in place with Halo in terms of their partnership that they manage on our behalf to run our sports and physical activity services, where there is a advisory board in place, key officers and members part of that advisory board, and the model for Arwen reflects that.
Yes, absolutely, Leader, and furthermore, it's a very successful arrangement that I think we found allows us to inform and help shape and influence direction in a very, very effective way. So I have no concerns at all with replicating that for Arwen in the same way as operated for Halo for a number of years. So I think that's absolutely right.
And what we will do is bring a full report to Cabinet outlining those steps and those mechanisms, so that all members can see that in a report. Thank you, Kelly. So with members' agreement, we will now move on to urgent items. There are no urgent items that I've been asked to consider as chairperson under the Constitution. And so we will now progress to item 18 on the agenda, which is a proposal to exclude the public. That is in accordance with the Local Government Act 1972 and subsequently the Local Government Order 2007. And I will ask the monitoring officer to take us through the process of the proposal to exclude the public from this part of the meeting. Kelly, please.
Thank you, Leader. For the benefit of members who are new to the Cabinet, it's probably best to clarify that in general terms, business is transacted openly and transparently. However, the legislation does allow that in certain circumstances, some business can be dealt with in closed session due to the nature of that business, and those exemptions are set out in legislation. However, when applying that criteria, members must consider whether the public interest outweighs the exemptions in the legislation and should still be dealt with transparently and openly. So at this stage, members, you must consider the public interest test. You will have seen the information before you. In these circumstances, it's to approve exempt minutes. So Cabinet has previously determined that the information contained in those minutes should be kept exempt. However, you do need to follow that test now to say whether they should still remain exempt at this stage. This isn't a forever exemption, so when it is reasonable to do so, the exemption will be listed and the information will be made publicly available at that time. Therefore, members, I'd ask you to apply the public interest test at this stage and determine whether to deal with the exempt minutes in closed session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Ellie. Do I have a do I have a mover for that? I do in Councillor Williams, and obviously there's reference in the minutes to very sensitive commercial negotiations, and therefore I would support that exclusion of the public as well. Is everyone in agreement with that, please? Yes. Okay, in which case we will exclude the public. I don't know if we have any members of the